Welcome to the nervous system. This particular lesson links in with the previous one that we've just covered, which was the muscular system. And as we kind of progress through, you'll see how those natural links fall into place. But what I want to start off with is looking at the function of the nervous system. So you'll see that the 2 points it's mentioned there is that one of which is it's maintaining what we call homeostasis. So you may have heard us refer to this term before. Homeostasis just means balance. So it's trying to control the balance within the body, whether that's like dilating blood vessels or not. Then you've got the other function, which is to provide electrical stimulus to the muscles themselves to allow them to contract. So without an electrical stimulus, there's no ability to be able to contract a muscle, which is where the two systems link in. What we're going to look at now is you've got the structure of the nervous system. So CNS just means central nervous system. PNS is peripheral nervous system. And don't worry if you don't remember these for now. We will go through all of these in a bit more detail as we progress through these slides. You've then got the somatic and the autonomic, which we briefly touched on in the previous video. So somatic being like under our conscious control. So think of it as like semi-automatic. And then autonomic, which is not under our conscious control. So automatic. As part of that autonomic, so that automatic system, we have what we call sympathetic and parasympathetic. And again, we're going to cover these in a bit more detail in a second because these will be brand new information for you. So let's look at the main divisions here. So your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is the two pink sections there. So what makes it up is the brain and the spinal cord. Any nerve that comes off of the spinal cord falls under the peripheral nervous system now. And it's made up of two types of nerves. So you have sensory and you have motor. Sensory nerves allow us to sense an area. So it's all of your senses. It's your sight, it's your hearing, it's your touch, it's your taste, your smell. All of those are from your sensory nerves. Then you've got motor nerves. Their job is to initiate a movement. So going into more detail on this peripheral nervous system, we've briefly touched on the fact you've got your somatic system and your autonomic. So somatic is voluntary. It's under our conscious control, like walking. We can choose to walk, we can choose to stop, speed up, slow down. Whereas your autonomic system, controls areas that we don't want to have to worry about, like your digestion, it's your heart beating. Things like that, we don't want to have to be trying to remind our heart to beat. We need it to do it automatically for us, which is why the autonomic nervous system will do that for you. So, as part of that autonomic, I said there was two new systems we need to learn. That is your sympathetic and your parasympathetic now. So, these actually form what we call your fight or flight. So, you may have heard that before. So it's what you do in a testing situation, should we say. So it could be like a matter of life and death or something along those lines. So I'm going to throw an analogy at you. So let's say you're walking down the road, you wasn't paying attention, you step out into the road and immediately realize that a bus is coming. You're given basically two options. You either don't do anything and you get hit by that bus, or you react. And this is where these two systems will kick in. So think of it now. You've stepped out and you just realized that bus is there. What your body's going to do now is sympathize with you. It feels sorry for you. It wants to get you out of that situation. So sympathetic is like sympathize. So what it does is it speeds everything up for you. It almost puts you in like superhuman mode. So it accelerates your metabolic processes. What it does is it increases your heart rate. So your heart rate now increases, which means more blood is now pumping around the body. At the same time, it sends all of the blood away from your major organs and it sends it to your arms, your legs, and your brain. The reason it does this is because it sends it to your brain because it wants you to think quickly in that situation. It also wants you to move quickly, which is why it sends it to your arms and your legs. So all of a sudden, your heart rate's increased and all that blood is sent to those major areas. So you can now think clearly in that situation and react and move quickly in that situation to hopefully get out of the way of that bus. Also dumps you full of adrenaline at the same time to allow you to cope with that situation. So you've now reacted super quickly. You've got yourself out of the way of that bus. The parasympathetic nervous system now kicks in. So think that it's now paralyzing the sympathetic nervous system. So it's now acting as a brake to slow everything back down again. So it's trying to get you to slow your heart rate back down, get that blood circulating back to your major organs of the body, to basically calm you down after that situation, because we don't need to stay in that superhuman mode. So that is where the parasympathetic nervous system comes in. So looking at the roles of the nervous system, it pretty much does everything in 3 stages. So you have what we call sensation, analysis and interpretation, and then a response or an action. So to give you an example, let's use that previous slide, that kind of fight or flight. You step in front of a road and your sensory nerves kick in. So your sight, you've seen that bus. You've sent a signal to your brain. You're now going to analyze and interpret what's going on. So it sends all the blood to all of your organs, allows you to think quickly, and then you're going to respond by getting out the way. The same as if you put your hand down on something and that what you put your hand down on was hot and you didn't realize. The sensory nerves are going to pick up that sensation and send a signal to the brain to tell your brain that what you've got your hand on is hot. Your brain then analyzes and interprets and will most likely agree and say, yep, that is hot. What we need to do now is send a signal back down the motor nerve to create a response or an action, which is you then pulling your hand off of that hot object. Just a quick recap on what we covered earlier. So the key principles of your muscles contracting is your muscles cross over a joint and they attach onto bones via that origin in your insertion. You've got voluntary control on certain areas, and we know that muscles work in pairs now. You've got your agonist and your antagonist. So while one muscle is contracting, the opposite will be relaxing. We know that the sliding filament theory is when that actin and the myosin work together. So those little myosin hooks attach onto a muscle and cause it to shorten and then release to allow the muscle to lengthen. Then we have something called the all or none law. And what we're going to do is we're going to touch on this in a little bit more detail in a second. But what it's basically implying is that all of the neurons within a particular area need to contract, or none of them will at all. So ignore that and just put it aside for 1 second, because we're going to come back and touch on that in a bit more detail in a minute. So what we need to know first is, what is a neuron? So this image you see above, you've got a neuron attaching to a muscle fiber. And this is where we need to not get confused. So the neuron is just the nerve. What we then have is something called a motor unit, which is the nerve and the muscle together. So from the blue end to the opposite blue end, that is your neuron. So it's made up of what we call a dendrite. So a dendrite are like those little tentacles coming off of that nerve that pick up information received from the brain. It then sends a signal down an axon, which is surrounded by what we call a myelin sheath. So think of like a normal electrical wire. It's normally a metal wire surrounded by a rubber casing. It's exactly the same as what our body does. We have this casing around the axon to speed the signal up and stop it from bouncing all over the place. And then you've got the nucleus inside that cell, which is effectively the brain of the cell. It's what keeps it alive, keeps it functioning. And then, like I say, all of those will then come down and they'll attach onto the muscle fiber. So if the brain has told the neuron, right, I want to contract this muscle, those dendrites pick up that information, receive it, go, yep, okay, I know my job, sends it down the axon, attached to the muscle fiber, and then we'll send that electrical signal to contract that muscle. And then, as I mentioned, your motor unit is the two working together. So it's when your neuron actually attaches to a muscle fiber. So let's pull back that all or none law that I told you to put aside. So when a nerve fires now, that dendrite picks up the signal, sends it down. And let's just look back at this previous slide now. All of these kind of little tentacles that kind of come off and attach onto that muscle fiber. What we're suggesting is, as an electrical signal comes down that neuron, it can't just go down, say, one of those tentacles and stimulate part of that. It has to go down all of those. So it's a bit like any kind of electrical circuit. So imagine like your household plug. If you unscrew that plug, you have 3 main wires in there. If you decided to cut one of those, screw the plug back together, put it in the wall and turn it on, it's probably not going to work. The same as with any kind of electrical circuit. If you cut one of those wires, that circuit won't function anymore. It's the same with our body now. As that electrical signal comes down, it has to be able to go through all of those little tentacles to stimulate the muscle, because we can't just partially contract a muscle but not stimulate another part of it. So the body will either see that as it's on or it's off. So as it says there, the motor unit is either on or off. There's no partial stimulation or contraction of a motor unit or its fibers. So motor unit recruitment, what is it? So we've seen that image of your motor unit that attaches onto a muscle fiber. You've got loads of these attaching onto your muscles. It's not just that you get one per muscle as such. You've pretty much got multiple per fiber. What happens is we have the ability now, in fact, I'll bring up a chart in a minute, which I'll show you, to recruit how many of those we want to turn on. So I'm going to give you an example now. You're walking around a gym, you see a 2 kilogram weight left on the floor. What your body's going to do is your sensory nerves will tell you, because they can see it, that is a 2 kilogram weight. So you've sent that signal to the brain goes, yep, it's 2 kilograms, that's easy. We're going to switch on, and it's just an example, 2 motor neurons now. That's all we need, because we don't need everything helping us with that task. It's an easy task. So we're going to switch on 2 to allow us to lift that muscle. Same goes the other way around now. You're walking around, someone's left a 50 kilogram dumbbell on the floor. You're now going to look at that and your body's probably going to go, oh, do you know what? We need 20 motor units for this task, because that's going to be hard. So the more we recruit, the stronger that contraction and stimulation of that muscle. So you may have had times in the past, you've gone to pick up a box. Let's just say that box written on the side says 50 kilos, but you don't realize it's already been emptied. So your brain thinks that's 50 kilos, it's turned on all those motor units. You go to lift it and nearly throw the box in the air because you've expected that to be heavy, but it's not. Same can go the other way round. Like you go to pick up, you see something like a box and it's got 2 kilos written on the side, but someone's filled it with textbooks and you don't know. You think it's light, and then the first time you attempt to lift that, you can't, because it's a shock. Your body's only turned a couple of those on. You now realize it's heavy. So now your body's reinforced it. It said, right, actually, I need all those motor units. And now you can actually lift that box. So to give you a visual representation, so something that's not that heavy, you might need 1 motor unit. You know that what's in front of you now is a little bit heavier. We're going to need, maybe 2. Even heavier, we're going to need 3. So that is what your motor unit recruitment is. So we're going to look at some of like the neuromuscular adaptations to exercise now. And this is whether you're doing endurance, aerobic exercise, or you're doing strength. So basically, the longer you train, the more efficient your body gets. And that's for all systems in the body, whether it's your cardiovascular or your nervous system or your muscular. But looking at your neuromuscular now, we're going to increase the size and number of the mitochondria if we're training aerobically or endurance based. So that basically means we're able to produce more energy. We're going to, over time, be able to get more oxygen to the muscles. We're going to have a greater supply of glycogen, which is just a breakdown of carbs, which means we've got more energy for that task. And your body's tissues are going to build up a tolerance to fatigue, which means we can train for longer before we tire out. For strength training now, you decrease your nervous inhibition, which means the thickness and diameter of those recruited muscle fibers are going to expand. And we call that hypertrophy, which is just the process of building muscle. So basically your muscles become more dense, they become stronger, they become bigger, which means we can now produce more force. We can lift heavier weights. We can push larger weights or objects, which again is over time going to improve your tolerance to fatigue, which means you can train for that a little bit longer. If we're looking from a motor fitness point of view now, which is your skill related, things like your balance will improve, coordination, speed, power, your agility, your reaction time, because the more we repeat certain tasks, the more our nervous system gets better at stimulating muscles, contracting them to help you with your coordination, your balance, and these kind of skill related components of fitness. That is the end of your nervous system.